Hi everybody, welcome to Engvid.com. I'm Adam. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to some very famous characters. Now, if you look at this board and you look at all these names, you should notice that these are all fictional characters. And fictional means not real. They are from movies or from books or just from legend, from myths, etc., from different places. Okay, so we're going to look at all these people. Now, why am I going to introduce you to these characters? Because these are so famous or so well known that people use these characters, they refer to these characters in everyday situations. And when somebody refers to one of these characters, the person listening right away understands what they're trying to say, what they mean when they're describing somebody else or a situation, as the case may be. So for example, if we look at Darth Vader, Darth Vader was a character in the Star Wars movies, and he represents pure evil. So when you want to describe someone and you think they're really mean and not nice, or you really just don't like them, you can easily describe them as Darth Vader. So for example, my friend got a new job, and at the end of his first week, I called him. I say, "Hey, how's your new job?" He says to me, "You know, my boss, I hate that guy. He's Darth Vader. He's worse than Darth Vader." As soon as he says Darth Vader, I get an image of somebody dressed all in black and, like breathing through his mask and just being very, very mean and killing everybody. So not a very good boss. On the flip side, from the same movie series, we have Yoda. Yoda is somebody who's very calm, very quiet, but very clearly focused on what he or she has to do, and very nice and trying to help somebody, right? So evil and goodness, basically. So somebody is Yoda, somebody is very calm, not necessarily good, more about calm, very zen, we would say, about this person. But again, when you refer to these characters, it's very clearly understood what you're trying to say about someone else. So we're going to look at a few more. Let's look at Tarzan. Tarzan was lost as a baby, and he was lost in the jungle, and some gorillas or monkeys, I don't know the story exactly, raised him. So he grew up like an animal, but he's a man. But he's very strong, he has lots of muscles, but not very educated. So when we talk about people who are, like maybe have a very good body, but not much in between the ears, we would say, oh, he's like Tarzan, right? We would describe him as Tarzan. And it's very popular in sports, especially football, to say about somebody, he looks like Tarzan, but plays like Jane. It means he looks very tough, but he's actually very wimpy, very weak, not a very good player. Charlie Brown. I think everybody knows Charlie Brown and Snoopy and Lucy and all the gang there at the neighborhood. So when we describe someone as Charlie Brown, we're talking about somebody who's a very nice person, but very mediocre. Nothing special, just gets by his life, does the things he's supposed to do, tries his best, but somehow never really succeeds. So think about Charlie Brown. He goes to kick that football and Lucy always moves it for him and he always falls on his head. So he means well, he just can't necessarily do very well. And a very common expression people use, what they say to somebody is, "You're a good man, Charlie Brown." It means you tried very hard, you meant well, you wanted to help, but somehow you landed on your back and failed. So people feel a little bit bad for you, but they like you. Everybody likes Charlie Brown. He's just not gonna get very far in life. MacGyver. Now, MacGyver was a TV show in the 80s, and I'm pretty sure they started it again, in the 90s, and they started a new series called MacGyver. But everybody understands MacGyver because it's actually used as a verb. To MacGyver something means to make something out of nothing. So in this TV show, this character, MacGyver, always somehow got into trouble or found himself in a situation where he had to help people. And somehow he always got trapped in a room or a car or a van or a plane with like a matchstick and a piece of tape. And somehow he was able to build a bomb and blow up the whole place and escape every single episode. Whatever little things he had, He was a very smart guy. He knew a lot about science, and he was always able to make a bomb out of everything. If you gave him a cube of sugar and a piece of lemon, he'll make you a bomb somehow out of that. So when somebody does anything, they tweak something or they build something or they make some sort of contraption out of very miscellaneous parts, out of whatever little pieces of things they found, we say, wow, you really MacGyvered that whatever. If you fix your car, you MacGyvered the car. You MacGyvered this, you MacGyvered that. You made something out of nothing, or you got yourself out of a difficult situation by using your wits. Captain Ahab is from a famous book called Moby Dick. Captain Ahab, he was the one who had a wooden leg. And the reason he had a wooden leg is because a white whale, Moby Dick, bit his leg off, and he spent the rest of his life looking for that white whale because he wanted to kill that white whale. And when we talk about somebody being like Captain Ahab, we're talking about somebody who's just obsessed with something, who can't get whatever that thing out of their mind. So they become a little bit crazy. So when somebody is like very, very stubborn or very, very obsessed about something, we will call him Captain Ahab, or just Ahab for short. Most people just say Ahab without the captain. So we can also use that to describe somebody, okay? Then there's Barbie. I'm not sure if there's an I or E or just I, but Barbie is a doll. She's a very famous doll. She has blonde hair. She has a perfect body as far as plastic bodies go. And she's supposed to be the perfect woman, right? And her boyfriend, Ken, is the perfect guy. And the problem with Barbie is that she is very superficial. And actually, I'm pretty sure it is with an E. Barbie. So the Barbie doll. So when we describe a woman as being a Barbie, means she's very good looking, but she's plastic, right? There's maybe not much inside, not much personality. So very, very superficial, very surface good looking, not inside good looking. And the same for Ken. So it's a little bit of an insult to call somebody Barbie, right? So just keep that in mind. But people refer to this a lot when they're describing somebody. And if you're on Instagram, you'll see a lot of people calling each other Barbie or Ken or whatever because it's all fake. It's all plastic, I guess you could say. Forrest Gump is a very famous movie. I'm sure most of you have seen it or at least have heard of it. So Forrest Gump, this character, that's his name, Forrest, he's very slow. He's like not, you can't say he's stupid. He's just slow. Right? He thinks very slowly. He speaks slowly. He acts slowly. But he can run really, really fast. So two things when people refer to somebody as Forrest Gump, sometimes people just use it as an insult. Like if somebody is talking slowly, they'll call him Forrest Gump. But realistically, we talk about Forrest Gump, someone who appears slow, but is actually very, very smart. Because this character did amazing things in his life. And he became very successful, very famous, very powerful, but very slow. So you can also think of Forrest Gump as somebody who's very, very lucky. Because based on how they speak and how they act, they shouldn't be able to succeed, but somehow they always do. And when somebody needs to run away, you always say, run, Forrest, run, right? Because that's what he did in the movie. So people refer to that line a lot every time somebody starts running, especially running away from somebody. Mary Poppins, an old movie, I think it's Disney, but I'm not sure. There was an old movie with Julie Andrews, but I think recently there was a remake of this movie. But anyways, when you refer to someone as Mary Poppins, you are saying that this person is just too much sweet. Everything's sugar and lovely and everybody's happy and very optimistic to the point where it's just unnatural. It's actually not a good thing. So if you're describing someone like, don't be a Mary Poppins, you're being too sweet. Like it's not realistic. Be normal, basically. You're a little bit too optimistic, too sweet. It makes people feel uncomfortable, in other words. Sherlock Holmes was a very famous detective in novels. And this character is able to solve any murder mystery, any crime. So when somebody is very good at observation or very good at investigation or finding things out, we might refer to him as Sherlock. We don't refer to the full name. We don't say Holmes. We just say Sherlock. But another expression we have is no kidding, Sherlock. When somebody says something that's very, very obvious or makes an observation that everybody else has already seen as well, people will say, no kidding, Sherlock. Although, to be fair, and excuse my language, most people say, no shit, Sherlock. That's the common expression. It means you've just said something very obvious. Everybody already understood this, right? Don't say the second one, say the no kidding, Sherlock, but you'll probably hear the second one more often. Then we have the abominable snowman, a little hard to pronounce, abominable snowman, or the Yeti, or Bigfoot, or Sasquatch. These are all the same character. Different countries or different regions of the world have a different name for it. So the abominable snowman is mostly in like the mountains, like places that have mountains would call that. Yeti, I think, is more from like the Himalayas, from like the Mount Everest region. Bigfoot is very common in Canada and the US. And I think Sasquatch is mostly in Canada. But basically, it's all the same thing. This is a very big man-ape mix. He's very tall, he's very big, full of hair. So he looks a little bit like a big gorilla, but he walks on 2 feet. And whenever you see a picture of the Yeti or the snowman or whatever, it's always very, very blurry. So you're not exactly sure it's real, but everybody believes it. So this is not a real character. It's not from a movie, not from a book. This is just from legend, right? So people have always said, oh yeah, somebody says they saw this person. So when we call somebody Yeti or a Bigfoot, or we describe someone as being a Yeti or a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, there's 2 meanings. One is that this person is not real. Somebody's just imagining him because nobody's actually seen this person. So if you think about a business, everybody works in a company, but nobody knows who the chief is, who the CEO is. So they call him Yeti because he's a mystery. Everybody thinks he's there, but nobody's actually seen him. That's one meaning. Another meaning, and it's not very nice, so don't use it, and be careful who you use it with if you do use it. If you see especially a man, but a very big, hairy man, people sometimes will call him a Sasquatch or Bigfoot. It's not nice. It's very, very rude, but you might hear that some people use that expression. And that's what they're referring to, a big, hairy person, right? Okay, now there are obviously many, many, many more fictional characters that people use in everyday conversations. But remember, learning English or learning any language is not only about vocabulary and grammar. You need to understand the cultural references. So when somebody is having a conversation and they're talking about, oh, did you see Barbie? She got another plastic surgery. They're referring to this character, and you need to make sure that you understand that connection, that reference, in order to understand the conversation. You might understand all the words, you might understand the grammar. If you don't know the culture, it's a little bit hard to follow some conversations. And again, people refer to movies, they refer to movie lines or books or TV shows or all kinds of different things in everyday conversations. You need to start getting to know what these references mean, okay? So if you want to make sure you understand these ones, go to ingvid.com and take the short quiz there that will test your knowledge of these. You can also ask me more questions. In the comment section at Ingvid, you can also suggest other fictional characters that you have heard native English speakers use in conversation, in regular conversation, and teach each other more references. Anyways, if you liked the video, I hope you did, give me a like. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to ring the bell there to get notifications of future videos. And come back soon for more culture tips, grammar tips, vocab, etc. See you.